Hello once again, and thank you for joining us for Friday's show. Up first, hazardous weather graphic. Start up in the north here on the Arctic coast. There's a wind chill advisory out for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, and that's goes into effect tomorrow and tomorrow night. And then a winter weather advisory here for the western Arctic coast there, and that's for snow and blowing snow with reduced visibilities and also some low wind chills as well. Looking at wind chills maybe to 60 below zero here on the eastern Arctic coast and around 50 to 55 below on the west side, depending on how strong the winds get. And again, that's out for tomorrow night. And then there's a blizzard warning continues here for tonight and through tomorrow for the St. Lawrence Island area, Bering Strait coast for strong winds, snow, blowing snow, visibility is reduced to less than a quarter mile at times, or in some cases even a whiteout. And blizzard warning this evening ends at about 9 p.m. here for the Yukon, Kuskokwim Delta, and Nunivak Island area. And the winter weather advisory also out until about 10 p.m. this evening, 9 or 10 p.m. this evening for the lower Yukon River Valley for reduced visibilities and blowing snow. And a winter weather advisory out for tonight for the eastern Kenai Peninsula, western Prince William Sound area up into Portage and Whittier, as well as the North Gulf Coast, mostly a snow advisory there for several inches of snow tonight, and also snow advisories here for the northern and eastern panhandle there from about Petersburg northward into the Juneau Borough area and up to the north there, Haines, for several inches of snow overnight tonight as that next system pushes in. And you can see the front right here making kind of breaking apart as it moves northeast, where you can see one band moving through earlier today and another band, the main front, right back through here, approaching the southeast coast, and also moisture pushing northward. Several inches of snow fell at Kodiak Island, but that ended this morning, and seeing a little bit of clearing around the area this afternoon. Still mostly cloudy skies there, but temperatures up in the upper 30s, and snow, blowing snow into the Bristol Bay area as well with this moisture. Roll this through again, you can see moisture kind of backing around in here. So snow over the southwest interior with gusty winds and a lot of cold air coming down from the north there from the Chukchi Sea through the Bering Strait and then the northern Bering Sea right across the Pribilofs, down across the eastern Aleutians now, with that low center tracking northeastward up along the Alaska Peninsula. And a weaker system out here to the west bringing numerous snow showers and little breezy conditions there for the western Aleutians and southwest Bering Sea area. And yet another band of clouds producing areas of light snow up there over the eastern Arctic coast, and also some light snow across the central Arctic coast as well. And you can see that mostly moving off, kind of stalling out as it reaches the coastline there. But this moving up to the northeast, this system, and next system off the chart here that'll be rapidly moving northeastward as well, taking a similar track, maybe a little bit farther to the south. But on the chart today, early afternoon front located right about in this area here, just south of Middleton Island. They're reporting wet snow with winds gusting 50 to 60 miles an hour out of the east-northeast. Augustine Island, northeast winds gusting to 60 miles an hour this afternoon. And back to the west here with this low center pulling northeastward, flow now more north to north-south here instead of that easterly flow we had yesterday. And temperatures down into the lower to mid-teens now over the Pribilof Islands. That coming down, sweeping down into Nikolsky with winds gusting upwards of 40 to 60 miles an hour there, as well as all the way back to St. Paul and St. George. And rain and snow along the Alaska Peninsula. Snow and blowing snow here, southwest interior, right up in towards St. Lawrence Island with some light snow all the way up onto the northwest coastal areas. And then that area of clouds with that weak trough there, giving some areas of light snow, eastern Brooks Range, North Slope, and the Arctic coastal zones. And taking a look at tonight's forecast. That front moves right up to the coastline late tonight, and that'll spread rain and snow into the area, mostly snow over the eastern portions and to the north. And of course, with any elevation, it'll be in the form of snow, lower elevations, form of rain, and mostly snow along the North Gulf Coast, some rain and snow showers in store for Kodiak Island, and some of that snow getting up into southern Alaska now, staying south of the Alaska Range, but upslope areas will see the best chance of snow, and snow continues here over the western interior with that trough extending from the low center. Now, weakening pretty well as it pushes up in toward northeast Bristol Bay, but periods of snow from Iliamna, northeast Bristol Bay there up across the Kuskokwim Valley, snow tonight all the way up to the Seward Peninsula, and still some snow, that moisture now pulling westward there. So areas of light snow for the Arctic coast, portions of the North Slope, with those amounts pretty light, and then a break in between here. And where there's any clear skies, that's where the temperatures will be the coldest tonight. Otherwise, areas of snow, kind of a widespread area of snow here with that very cold air coming out over the open waters of the Bering Sea, and ice edge coming southward with that colder air and north winds over the weekend here. But winds becoming quite light here over the Aleutians, and even starting to diminish over the Pribilof Islands, and will continue to diminish over the Alaska Peninsula as well with a weakening system here. Weaker low stays out over the western Aleutians, so a lot of snow showers out there, temperatures staying below freezing, especially tonight, and probably through tomorrow as well. Then coming onto the map here, the warm front with the next system, low center just off the map there, and we'll see that moves northeastward tomorrow quite rapidly. By afternoon, it'll be just south of Sitkinak Island with, again, late tomorrow evening, more likely precipitation on the increase once again. A little bit of a break tomorrow for the southeast coast, but still some areas of rain and snow showers that'll tend to increase along the south coast late in the day. Otherwise, Copper River Basin, some snow showers, areas of snow across all of southern Alaska here into Bristol Bay, snow showers, and a little breezy, cold temperatures, definitely snow down to sea level there for the Alaska Peninsula. A little bit drier for the eastern Aleutians, but still mostly cloudy with a little bit of light snow. No change here over the Bering Sea. And areas of snow, quite a widespread area here over the western interior. Some of that may get into the Tanana Valley. I wouldn't look for a whole lot. Looking pretty dry here over the central and northeast interior, all the way to the Arctic coast. Snow showers again continue out here over the Aleutians with a couple of weak lows out in that area. And then for the second day of the weekend, next big storm coming onto the picture here, just beginning to increase those winds in the afternoon for the Aleutians here, AKwx to Kiska Island. Probably gales developing in the afternoon, the way it looks at this point in time with increasing snow. Still a band of light snow out here over the Bering Sea south of the ice edge right into the Alaska Peninsula. Low center moves right up in toward western Prince William Sound, and a pretty good gradient there, looking at storm force winds probably for Kamishak Bay out of the west-northwest. Barren Islands, gales for Kodiak Island with dry conditions and colder temperatures there with those winds. Lighter winds over the southwest interior. Big area of light snow possible over just about everywhere south of the Brooks Range, right on down into the southeast interior. And yet another low center here pushes a cold front onto the coast for periods of rain with snow at higher elevations. Call it mountain snows with lower elevation rain, especially along the coast. Except up north, probably right down to the ground, you'll be seeing snow there. And for lows tonight, upper 20s to mid-30s for the southeast coast. Right around zero, Copper River Basin. 15 below to 5 above for the Kuskokwim Valley, otherwise 20s and 30s elsewhere. Highs tomorrow, mid-teens, Copper River Basin, and upper 20s to mid-30s, south central Alaska Kenai Peninsula, Kodiak Island, upper 30s and 40s for the Panhandle. And lows the following morning in the 30s for the southeast coast, staying above zero in the Copper River Basin, and 10 to 25 south central Alaska, right around zero for the Kuskokwim Valley, single numbers to lower teens for Bristol Bay. Highs 15 for the Copper River Basin, 5 to 10 for the Kuskokwim Valley, 5 to 15 Bristol Bay, mid-20s Kodiak Island, in the 20s south central Alaska, into the 40s for the Panhandle. Up to the north, lows tonight 15 to 25, maybe 30 below, possibly 30 to 45 below on the north slope there. And then highs tomorrow staying below zero just about everywhere. Tanana maybe getting up to about 3 degrees 7 at Fairbanks, and for the lows the following morning, below 0 everywhere, coldest here in the North Slope, and highs edging above 0, 0 to 5 for the central interior, below 0 to the north, and also out to the west. And for the southwest coast, below 0 here for the Yukon Delta coast, and then milder in toward Bristol Bay. 20s for the Aleutians, down to 11 for St. Paul, and then high 14 for the Pribilofs tomorrow, staying below 0 for the Yukon Kuskokwim Delta coastline, and right around freezing for the Aleutians, upper 20s for the eastern Aleutians and the Alaska Peninsula, followed by lows into the 20s, all of the Aleutian chain, down to about 9 for the...
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Flying weather for Saturday morning. Band of IFR here across the northern Bering Sea, just south of the ice edge, and then becomes marginal VFR for the southern Bering and all of the Aleutians right into the Alaska Peninsula. IFR up into Bristol Bay, southwest interior, and extending eastward here into across Shelikof Strait, Kodiak Island, up into southern Cook Inlet, Kamishak, Kachemak Bay, most of the Kenai Peninsula, and then becoming marginal VFR up toward the Alaska Range, Copper River Basin, but IFR for the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, all of the Panhandle, central interior, all the way up to the Brooks Range, mostly VFR, marginal VFR for the North Slope and Arctic Coast. And then for Saturday afternoon, IFR here across all of southern Alaska and the North Gulf Coast, there right into the northern Panhandle. Another batch down over the southern southeast coast with marginal VFR in between, marginal for Kodiak. Still this band of IFR here south of the ice edge in the Bering Sea, marginal VFR from about St. George Island or so all the way down to the Aleutians, and the central and northern interior out to the Arctic coast, mostly VFR with some scattered areas of marginal VFR. And then for Sunday morning, big area of IFR now in over interior Alaska, all the way up into the Yukon Flats, and a little more widespread marginal VFR for the north slope of the Arctic coast, looking pretty good, as well as the Chukchi Sea and the northern Bering Sea, the ice-covered northern Bering Sea here, VFR. And still that narrow band of IFR right through here, becoming marginal, and then VFR, west central Aleutians, IFR for the Panhandle and the eastern North Gulf Coast there. Now northern Cook Inlet, all the Manouskas, the Sitna Valley areas becoming marginal down to the south. And for the afternoon Sunday, that IFR area slowly lifting northward, pretty solidly entrenched here over the interior, right up into the Kobuk, Koyukuk valleys, eastern Seward Peninsula there, Kuskokwim Valley, and then marginal VFR up to the crest of the Brooks Range. But north of the mountains there, out to the Arctic coast, VFR, IFR, Yakutat down across the Panhandle, also some IFR for the Copper River Basin, improving out here to the west, and some IFR just south of the west central Aleutians, Anutuvik and Adigan, marginal VFR becoming VFR into the afternoon and evening. Lake Clark and Merrill, IFR for rainy and windy. Marginal VFR, lower conditions southern entrance will be better out the north side. And Isabel, marginal VFR trending toward IFR, possibly, especially on the southern approach. And for Mentesta, mostly marginal tomorrow. And Tanita, IFR. Portage, IFR. Chilkoot and White, same forecast, IFR. And moving on to the freezing levels at the surface, tomorrow morning or during the morning hours, right along the Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula, and across the Barren Islands, actually southern Cook Inlet near Homer, up along the North Gulf Coast, and then down across the Panhandle, 2,000 feet just up across Dixon Entrance, but the warmer air staying off to the southwest here, and 2,000 feet off the chart out west. Icing. Could be some areas of isolated moderate rime icing here in the western interior, Bristol Bay, Kuskokwim Valley, back up to the Seward Peninsula. And that'll extend up here along the North Gulf Coast, and then heavier moisture with that next system pushing in toward the Panhandle late in the day, mostly south of Kodiak Island. And for the jet stream, there's that 155 knot jet will be carrying that next batch of moisture right into the Panhandle with the next system there, but much lighter here over the interior. Light southwest winds or south-southwesterlies over the northern Bering Sea there. Another upper low here over the just north of the western Aleutians. That's keeping the jet out there to the south, with all the cold air in over the Bering Sea, as well as the interior. And for 9,000 feet, big trough complex right here over much of mainland Alaska. A couple of centers here, one along the southwest coast, the Bering Strait. Got west-northwest, 40 to 45 knots, central eastern Aleutians, northerlies 40 knots way out there to the west. And south-southwest, 50 knots, Copper River Basin. 9,000 or 3,000 feet here. Winds, stronger winds still off the coast. That low center moving in, so that'll be coming in late tomorrow night or during the nighttime hours tomorrow. North 40 knots. And for turbulence, pretty smooth out west there. Here, Bering St. Lawrence Island, moderate turbulence. Alaska Peninsula, moderate turbulence. Southeast interior, moderate, as well as the Panhandle.
So my heart is definitely racing. I don't know about anyone else's. This is the stuff nerds dream of.
10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6,
It's gonna
5,
happen.
4, 3, 2.
That countdown you just heard? We'll get back to that in a minute. Last episode, we saw the epic launch of ICESat-2, NASA's newest state-of-the-art ice-observing satellite. But now that that's in orbit, the pressure to deliver results is on.
Between launch and, the first ground returns, took 17, 18 days or something like this. It's a time when you're quite nervous.
9 years ago, Dr. Torsten Marcus took over as the lead project scientist for ICESat-2 during a time when the mission needed a champion.
You start fighting for a mission over, for 9 years now.
So when ICESat-2 was turned on for the first time 18 days after it was launched, only then would the science team know if the whole thing had worked. And it did.
First of all, it's kind of emotional, right? Being here, ICESat-2 was developing for 9-10 years. Project scientist, you live the mission, right?
If it sounds like there's a lot of noise in the background, that's because Torsten is being interviewed from a plane 1,500 feet in the air. IceBridge was tasked with the job of bridging the data between the end of ICESat's mission and the beginning of ICESat-2, about a 9-year difference.
The goal is that it would run until ICESat-2 launched and then would have overlap with ICESat-2 as well, so we can get a really long, well-calibrated time series from IceBridge.
As the deputy project scientist for Operation IceBridge, Brick works closely with Torsten to make sure the two missions are syncing up.
The timing was everything during that mission, which was a real challenge because not only do we need to...
Basically what you need to take away is getting an airplane and a satellite in space to fly over the same flight path at the same time and collect matching data is really, really hard. IceBridge was tasked with two objectives. Check the accuracy of ICESat-2's data over land ice and over sea ice. They were able to lock in the land ice data fairly quickly in the mission, but the sea ice data...
It was really tricky. We waited day after day. Do we fly the sea ice? It's still on our list.
7, 6,
It's gonna
5,
happen.
4, 3, 2, 1. Mark on the overpass 0435, 35 Zulu.
Here's what just happened. A plane 1,500 feet up and a satellite 308 miles up measured the same sea ice at the same time. This moment finally linked veteran mission Operation IceBridge's data to that of its new sister mission, ICESat-2. Two projects that, until now, were separate for nearly 10 years.
It's a very satisfying feeling because you do something that is meaningful and in the bigger picture. And yeah, it's very satisfying.
Our search for knowledge doesn't end here. Grace Follow-On and ICESat-2, the two satellite missions that launched this year, will continue to bring in incredible data for the foreseeable future. The steady drumbeat of campaigns in the field goes on, but most of all, the people who look for answers will never stop searching. And from our perspective, it's pretty clear why. What is your favorite planet in the solar system?
My favorite planet is the planet Earth.
What? Earth? Really?
The Earth. Obviously.
Favorite planet in the solar system? Earth, right? We live on it. It's a really important one.
Favorite planet is Earth.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Why?
when you look out at the other planets, they're absolutely fascinating. They've got all sorts of interesting systems going on. They've got dust storms. But then when you're on another planet, looking back at Earth, I mean, it's just incredible.
Whenever you go in different places, it looks so different, so amazing. It's just, I love planet Earth. It's just a very special planet. This is our home.
We've seen things far beyond the solar system. But even with all that, even the amazing things we've seen, one of the most amazing is the Earth itself.
It's got to be Earth. It's got to be Earth.
It's got to be here. I like the polar regions up here, of Earth. Yeah, sorry. It's very boring.
Earth is good.
Earth is good.
We live here, it sustains our life.
I'm not going to turn my back on it.
It's got water, it's got ice, it's got vegetation. I mean, it's rich with life. And so studying Earth is a very, very rewarding career. And I think if we were on any other planet, we would be trying to get to Earth as quickly as we could.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Friday sea ice analysis from today. Ice edge continuing to advance south and southwest with a cold north winds now blowing, and that'll continue the same pattern through the weekend, but probably no chance of it reaching St. Paul, at least for another week. And from there, going to coastal water forecasts for the southeast coast, small craft advisories all along the coast tomorrow. South winds 25 knots, seas 13 to as high as 18 feet in the north coast. Lynn Canal, Glacier Bay, Stevens Passage, same thing. South winds 25 knots, small craft advisories. South winds 30 knots for Clarence Strait with seas up to 13 feet. And then for the day on Sunday, gale warnings here for the coast. Got that cold front coming in. So southwest winds 35 knots, seas up to 26 feet. And south to southwest winds 30 knots for the north coast. And south winds 20 knots, Lynn Canal, Glacier Bay, Stevens Passage area. Southwest 25 for Clarence Strait. And for Prince William Sound tomorrow, southeast winds at 20 knots with 4-foot seas. North Gulf Coast, south winds 25 knots, south winds 30 knots for the Barren Islands. And northeast winds at 30 knots for southern Cook Inlet and Kamishak Bay, north winds at 20 for northern Cook Inlet. And for the day on Sunday, northern Cook Inlet, not bad, southwest breeze at about 15 knots, but west 40 knots there, southern Cook Inlet. Storm warnings in the forecast for Kamishak Bay, the Barren Islands, and the western North Gulf Coast, all out of the west, 50 to 55 knots, seas around 20 feet. And gales for the eastern North Gulf Coast. West winds at 40 knots, Prince William Sound, northwest winds 30 knots. Kodiak Island, west-southwest winds tomorrow, 15 to 30 knots, west at 20 for Bristol Bay, northwest 20 to 25 here for the Alaska Peninsula. And for the day on Sunday, west winds 30 to 35 knots for the Alaska Peninsula, strongest here in the Pacific side of the area there. Northwest 30 knots for Bristol Bay. And storm warnings for Shelikof Strait, west winds 45 or 50 knots, otherwise west 45, the east side of Kodiak. And for the Fox Islands tomorrow, north to northwest winds 20 to 25 knots, north 15 to 20 knots for Adak and Atka, and out from Amchitka, or actually Kiska to Shimia, northeast at 25. Then a big increase in the winds, that big storm down to the south coming northward there. And so late in the day Sunday, we're looking at storm warnings from the north and northeast for the western Aleutians, 50 to 55 knots. 45 to 50 knot winds coming up in the afternoon for Adak and Atka. And for the eastern Aleutians, 25 to 40 knot winds from the southeast to northeast. And then for the southwest coast tomorrow, brisk wind advisories, northwest winds at 25 knots, gale warnings for St. Lawrence Island north at 35, north winds 25 knots for the Pribilofs and St. Matthew Island. And for the day Sunday, northwest 20 for the Pribilofs, St. Matthew Island, northwest 20 to 30 knots for the southwest coast, northwest 25 for St. Lawrence Island. And for the Arctic coast tomorrow, pretty uniform here, east winds 25 knots the entire stretch of the coastline, Chukchi Sea north to northeast 25 to 30 knots. And for the Chukchi Sea on Sunday, northeast to northwest winds 20 to 30 knots, northeast 30 knots for the western Arctic coast, central coast, and part of the east side there, northeast winds at 20 knots, turning more easterly toward Kaktovik, the demarcation point. And for tonight, front moving northward, gale warnings here in advance of that continue, and wind, rain, and snow into the panhandle, and some snow pushing into southern Alaska, but more so out here over the southwest interior across Norton Sound. Light snow up to the north, next system here moving northeastward tomorrow, just south of Kodiak Island, so that'll bring some more wet weather into that area, but wind's not too bad. North winds, gusty, colder air continues to pull southward here, so snow right down to sea level to the Alaska Peninsula and beyond. Areas of snow over the western and southwest interior, dry over the central and northeast interior areas. And then for Sunday, cold front moves to the Panhandle coastline, widespread area of light snow over interior Alaska, gusty storm force winds here Kodiak Island, Barren Islands, and storm force winds with this system out here to the west, edging upward late in the day for the central and west central Aleutian areas. This band of light snow continues south of the ice edge over the northern Bering Sea, covering the Pribilofs to the Alaska Peninsula. Thanks for joining us.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.